My mother was everything to me. When cancer took her 3 years ago, I thought nothing could hurt more. I was wrong. Standing there at our rehearsal dinner, watching my fiancée Amanda laugh with her parents as they mocked my mother, I felt something inside me break. The woman I loved had shown her true colors in the cruelest way possible. All those months planning our future together suddenly felt like a terrible mistake. Before getting into the full story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button. Your support means everything during difficult times like these. I grew up in a small apartment on the outskirts of Boston, raised by my mother, who worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. Dad left when I was 4, and it was just the 2 of us against the world after that. Mom worked as a nurse during the day and waitressed at night, often coming home exhausted, but never too tired to ask about my day or help with homework. What we lacked in money we made up for in traditions. Every Sunday was our sacred day together. We would make banana pancakes from scratch, then spend hours reading books side by side on our worn couch. Sometimes we would venture to free museum days or walk in the public gardens. Those memories are priceless to me, far more valuable than any material possessions. When I was 19 and in my 2nd year of engineering school, Mom started feeling unusually tired. She blamed it on picking up extra shifts, but I noticed the weight loss, the wincing, when she thought I was not looking. After weeks of my pestering, she finally saw a doctor. Stage 3. Pancreatic cancer. The prognosis was grim. She fought hard, enduring brutal chemotherapy sessions, where I would sit beside her, holding her hand as she shivered under hospital blankets. Her one goal was to see me graduate. I accelerated my coursework, taking summer classes and overloading each semester. The day I walked across the stage, she was there in the audience, thin and pale, but beaming with pride. She passed away 6 weeks later. Her final days were filled with wisdom that only those facing mortality can offer. She held my hands with surprising strength and said, "Caesar, find someone who sees your worth, someone who respects where you come from and loves you for the man I raised. Never settle for less than that respect. Promise me." I promised through tears, not knowing how prophetic those words would be. I met Amanda 2 years after Mom died. The grief had settled into something manageable by then, though the hole in my heart remained. I was working as a project engineer at a construction company when our firm was hired to renovate the corporate headquarters, where Amanda worked as a marketing executive. Our first meeting was accidental. I was reviewing blueprints in the cafeteria when she spilled coffee nearby. I offered her my handkerchief, one of Mom's that I always carried. She was struck by the old-fashioned gesture, and we started talking. She was beautiful, with auburn hair and a laugh that made me smile for the first time in months. We exchanged numbers, and by the end of the project we were dating. Amanda came from a different world than mine. Where I grew up counting pennies for groceries, she had summered in the Hamptons and attended private schools. Yet when it was just the 2 of us, those differences seemed unimportant. She listened when I talked about Mom, asking questions and seeming genuinely interested in the woman who shaped me. After living in grief's shadow for so long, Amanda felt like sunshine breaking through clouds. Meeting her family was intimidating. Their house was not a house at all, but a mansion in Brookline with a circular driveway and staff who answered the door. Her father, James, was a financial executive, her mother, Margaret, a former debutante who now chaired charity galas. Their first assessment of me was subtle, but clear, polite smiles that did not reach their eyes. Questions about my career goals that felt more like interrogations. "They just need time to know you," Amanda assured me after that first awkward dinner. "They can be protective, but they will warm up." I believed her because I wanted to, because the alternative was admitting the wall between our worlds might be too high to scale. After a year of dating, I asked Amanda to marry me. I spent months having Mom's engagement ring restored, a delicate band with a modest diamond that had been her mother's before her. The night I proposed, Amanda cried and said yes immediately. It was only later, when she showed her parents, that I caught the first real warning sign. "It is very sweet," Margaret said, examining the ring with a pinched smile, "but perhaps a bit outdated. We could have it reset into something more contemporary." "I love it just as it is," Amanda said, but I noticed she started wearing it less often especially around her friends. As wedding planning began, I hoped to incorporate small tributes to Mom. Nothing elaborate. Just a photo on the memorial table, perhaps using her favorite flower in the arrangements. Amanda initially seemed supportive, but as her parents became more involved in the planning, her enthusiasm waned. "Do you really think all these death references are appropriate at a wedding?" Margaret asked during one planning session. "It might bring down the mood. It is not about death," I tried explaining. "It is about honoring someone who cannot be here." Of course, James interjected with a dismissive wave. "But perhaps there are more tasteful ways, less obvious ones." Amanda squeezed my hand under the table, but said nothing to defend my wishes. As the wedding grew closer, I noticed subtle shifts in Amanda's behavior. She began making comments about my apartment, suggesting I replace the kitchen table Mom and I had refinished together. She winced when I mentioned childhood stories, involving coupon cutting or thrift stores. Around her friends, she would sometimes introduce me as working in development rather than construction, though my engineering degree had never seemed inadequate before. "You are acting like you are ashamed of me." I confronted her after one such incident. "Do not be ridiculous," she replied, but would not meet my eyes. "I just think there is a time and place for certain stories. Not everyone needs to know every detail about your upbringing." "My upbringing shaped who I am," I said. "Mom raised me to be proud of where I came from." Amanda sighed. "I know you loved your mother, Caesar, but you reference her constantly. Sometimes it feels like I am competing with a ghost." That stung, but I tried to see her perspective. Maybe I did talk about Mom too much. Maybe it was unfair to expect Amanda to constantly hear about someone she never met. I made an effort to mention Mom less often, to focus on our future rather than my past. Then came the incident with the handkerchief. Mom had a collection of vintage handkerchiefs, and I had kept them all. One in particular had blue embroidered edges, her favorite. I wanted to carry it in my pocket during the ceremony, as my something blue, a private tribute, that would not intrude on the wedding aesthetic Amanda and her mother had planned so carefully. I mentioned this at a dinner at her parents' house, showing them the carefully preserved handkerchief. Margaret asked to see it, then somehow accidentally spilled red wine across the delicate fabric. "Oh dear," she said, with what seemed like rehearsed dismay. "These old fabrics are so fragile. Perhaps it is a sign you need something new for your new life." I watched the blue threads soak up burgundy wine the last gift from Mom ruined, and felt a coldness in the pit of my stomach. Amanda patted my arm and whispered that she would find me a new pocket square, missing the entire point. My best friend Frank noticed the changes in me. We had been friends since elementary school, and he had been a pallbearer at Mom's funeral. "You seem different," he observed over beers one night. "Smaller somehow." "Is everything okay with the wedding planning?" I tried, explaining the tensions, the feeling that I was constantly compromising while Amanda's family conceded nothing. Frank listened, then asked bluntly, "Do you actually want to marry into this family? Because from where I am sitting, they do not respect you or where you come from." "Amanda does," I insisted, but even to my ears it sounded uncertain. The pre-wedding events only increased my unease. At the bridal shower, my two aunts and cousins sat awkwardly in a corner, while Amanda's many relatives and sorority sisters dominated the event. The bachelor party organized by Frank was the only time I felt like myself in months. "You know you can still back out," Frank said as we were nursing our hangovers the next day. "No one would blame you." "I love her," I said, which was true, but love without respect is a house built on sand, as Mom would have said. As the rehearsal dinner approached, I felt increasing anxiety. It was being held at an exclusive country club where Amanda's father was a member with a 5-course meal and string quartet. I decided to bring a small framed photo of Mom to place at the small memorial table the event planner had reluctantly agreed to set up. When I arrived early with the frame, Amanda intercepted me at the door. "What is that?" she asked, eyeing the silver frame in my hands. "Just a photo of Mom for the memorial table." Her smile tightened. "Caesar, we talked about this. The memorial table is for the actual wedding, not the rehearsal dinner." "The planner said it was fine," I countered. "It is just a small photo." She sighed. "Fine, but maybe we can talk about your speech later." I know you wanted to mention your mother, but maybe focus on happier topics. No one wants to think about death right before dinner. I felt that familiar sting, but nodded. I will keep it brief. The dinner began smoothly enough. Amanda looked beautiful in a cream-colored dress, her parents elegant and commanding as they greeted guests. I watched James work the room, clapping shoulders and laughing at all the right moments. I would never have that easy confidence, that assumption that I belonged in spaces like this. Then came the toasts. James went first, speaking eloquently about his daughter and making subtle digs at me that were cloaked in enough humor that objecting would have seemed petty. When Amanda first told us about Caesar, he said with a chuckle we were concerned she might be slumming it a bit. But he has proven to be quite trainable. With enough coaching, we might even get him ready for the country club membership committee someday. Polite laughter rippled through the room while my face burned. Amanda giggled and squeezed my hand as if we were sharing a joke, not realizing she was participating in my humiliation. Before my turn to speak, I needed air. The room felt suffocating with its crystal chandeliers and judgmental glances. I stepped out onto a terrace, taking deep breaths and rehearsing my carefully edited speech that mentioned Mom only briefly. That is when I heard them. Around the corner of the terrace, partially hidden by a decorative partition, were Amanda, her parents, and several cousins. They had not noticed me, engrossed as they were in their conversation. And what a conversation it was. "I cannot believe he brought that tacky frame," one cousin was saying with a snicker. "It looks like something from a discount store." "Well, what do you expect?" James replied. "You should have seen the furniture in his mother's apartment when we went to clean it out. Everything from a second-hand store or worse. And that accent she had in those videos he showed me," Amanda added with a laugh that cut deeper than any knife. "So working-class Boston. Like something from a bad movie. At least you will not have to worry about her fashion sense affecting the wedding photos," Margaret said. "That woman wore polyester pantsuits like they were haute couture." "I told him we cannot have that depressing memorial stuff at my wedding," Amanda said firmly. "Nobody wants to see pictures of some woman they never met, especially one who clearly had no taste or class." I must have made a sound because suddenly they all turned and saw me standing there, frame still clutched in my hands. The silence was deafening. "Caesar," Amanda said, her face draining of color. "We were not talking about your mother. It was someone else." The lie was so transparent it did not deserve acknowledgement. I looked at each of their faces, seeing for the first time the ugly truth beneath their polished veneers. Then, without a word, I walked back into the dining room. The string quartet had just finished playing, and the room had that momentary hush that follows music. Perfect timing. I walked directly to the center of the room, aware of Amanda and her family scrambling in behind me. "I would like to say something," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Every eye turned to me, expecting a toast. They got something very different. My mother taught me that respect is not something you can buy with money or status. It is earned through how you treat others, especially when you think no one is watching. She worked 2 jobs her entire life to give me opportunities she never had. She wore second-hand clothes so I could have new ones. Her accent might not have been polished, but her heart and character were spotless. I turned to face Amanda directly. "I just overheard my fiancée and her family mocking my mother, the woman who raised me, whose funeral was only 3 years ago. Making fun of her accent, her clothes, her furniture, calling the small tribute I wanted to include depressing and tacky." Gasps filled the room. Amanda stepped forward, tears already forming. "Caesar, please, you misunderstood. We can talk about this privately." I shook my head. There is nothing to misunderstand. Nothing to discuss. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the ring, placing it on the table in front of her. "The wedding is off. I deserve someone who respects me, and the woman who raised me. So do all of you, actually." With that, I walked out, ignoring the chaos erupting behind me. James tried to block my path, but Frank, bless him, intercepted, creating space for my exit. I drove straight to the cemetery where Mom was buried, needing to be close to her wisdom. The night air was cool as I sat beside Mom's grave, the rehearsal dinner's events, replaying in my mind like a nightmare I could not wake from. I had placed the small framed photo against her headstone, finally giving her the recognition she deserved. "I should have listened to you," I whispered to the marble marker. You tried to tell me how important respect was. I thought love was enough. I do not know how long I sat there questioning my judgment, wondering how I had missed so many warning signs before headlights swept across the cemetery. Frank's truck pulled up and he approached slowly, respecting the sacredness of my grief. "Figured I would find you here," he said, sitting beside me on the grass. That was quite an exit. "Did I overreact?" I asked, suddenly uncertain. Frank shook his head. "Absolutely not. What they said was unforgivable. Your mom would have been proud of you tonight." My phone had been buzzing continuously with messages and calls from Amanda, her parents, and various wedding party members. Some expressed shock, others anger. A few interestingly offered quiet support. "What happens now?" I asked, more to myself than to Frank. "Now," he said, "you rebuild. On a foundation of self-respect this time." The next morning, Amanda showed up at my apartment unannounced. Her eyes were red from crying, her usually perfect appearance disheveled. "Please just hear me out," she begged when I opened the door. "What you heard was terrible, I know, but it was just stupid joking around. We did not mean anything by it." "That makes it worse," I replied calmly. "You thought ridiculing my dead mother was appropriate joke material. You are blowing this out of proportion," she insisted. "Everyone says things they do not mean sometimes." "Are you really throwing away our entire relationship over one mistake?" I studied her face, searching for the woman I thought I knew. "It was not one mistake, Amanda. It was a revelation of character, yours and mine. I always thought I needed to be better, more polished, more worthy of you. But now I see it was the other way around." Her expression hardened slightly. "I have always supported you, Caesar. But your attachment to your mother, constantly talking about her keeping all her old things, it is not normal. It is weird, actually. Everyone thinks so. And there it was, the truth finally exposed in all its ugliness. "I think you should leave," I said quietly. "Please return any keys you have to my place." After she left, I expected to feel devastated. Instead, I felt lighter, as if I had put down a heavy burden I had been carrying for too long. The wedding vendors had to be contacted, deposits forfeited, explanations made. I did it all mechanically, one foot in front of the other. Then came the surprise. Amanda's cousin Sophia reached out via email. "I was there that night," she wrote. "What they said was inexcusable, and I am ashamed I did not speak up. Your mother sounds like an amazing woman who raised an honorable son. Not many men would have had the courage to do what you did." It was the first of several unexpected shows of support. My coworkers rallied around me, my boss gave me time off to clear my head. Even some of Amanda's extended family members reached out with awkward but sincere apologies. I found a grief support group that helped me process not just Mom's death, but the complicated emotions surrounding the broken engagement. There I met people who understood that love does not end with death, that carrying someone's memory is not weird but natural and healthy. I reconnected with Mom's former nursing colleagues, people who remembered her kindness and work ethic. They shared stories I had never heard, expanding my understanding of the remarkable woman who raised me. One colleague, Elaine, even had photos from hospital Christmas parties I had never seen. "She talked about you constantly," Elaine told me, over coffee. "Every achievement, every milestone. You were her whole world." 6 months after the canceled wedding, I received a promotion at work. The project I had been developing, a more cost-efficient method for sustainable construction in low-income housing areas, had impressed the senior partners. As I hung the framed announcement in my living room, I placed it beside Mom's photo. "We did it," I told her image. "Your sacrifices were not wasted." With my first bonus, I established a small nursing scholarship in Mom's name at the community college, where she had earned her degree while raising me. It was not much, just enough to help one struggling single parent each year with books and supplies. But seeing her name live on helping others like her brought me more joy than any wedding could have. I learned to honor Mom's memory in ways that felt right to me, not hidden away to appease others' discomfort. Her handkerchiefs, rescued from a box in my closet, were framed and displayed on my wall. The kitchen table we had refinished together remained the heart of my home. I no longer felt the need to apologize for these connections to my past. A year after that fateful rehearsal dinner, I returned to Mom's grave with fresh flowers and news of my accomplishments. The pain had transformed into something else, a gentle ache that reminded me of love rather than loss. "You were right," I told her. "Respect is fundamental. You cannot build a life with someone who does not honor where you come from, who you are at your core." Standing there in the quiet cemetery, I finally understood that walking away that night had not been an ending but a beginning. By honoring Mom's memory and her values, I had found a strength I never knew I possessed. True love, I realized, requires seeing someone completely history and all, and valuing every piece that makes them whole. I deserved that kind of love. Mom had always known it, had tried to tell me in her final days. It just took me a while to believe it. Have you ever had to walk away from a relationship that was not serving you? Did you feel guilty or relieved afterward? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that standing up for yourself is an act of courage, not selfishness. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, the people who truly love you will never ask you to diminish yourself or dishonor those who shaped you.